Once upon a time, in a vast and beautiful forest, there lived a giraffe named Gary. Gary was not just any giraffe. He had an incredibly long neck. While other animals in the forest boasted about their speed, strength, or agility, Gary was known for his unique feature, his towering neck. It allowed him to reach the highest branches of trees, grazing on leaves that no other animal could ever reach. Gary took pride in his long neck, often strutting around, proudly displaying it to all the other animals in the forest. But despite his pride, Gary always felt a little different from the rest. His neck, which seemed so special to him, sometimes made things harder. For one, it was difficult to fit through narrow spaces, and he couldn't play some of the games the other animals enjoyed. His long neck would get in the way when he tried to hide behind bushes or sneak through the underbrush. He would often feel awkward and out of place when he couldn't join in on activities with the other animals. One hot summer, a drought hit the forest. The rivers started to dry up, and the trees no longer bore the lush fruits and leaves that the animals loved. Food and water became scarce, and all the animals began to struggle. The smaller creatures had trouble finding enough to eat, and the rest of the forest was rapidly becoming a place of discomfort. Gary, with his long neck, could still reach the highest branches of the few remaining trees, but that didn't help the other animals who couldn't reach them. He watched as his friends, the elephants, the deer, and the monkeys, struggled to find food and water. The once thriving forest was now slowly withering, and Gary began to feel helpless. One day, as he was munching on some leaves from a tall acacia tree, Gary overheard a conversation between the other animals. The monkeys, who loved to swing through the trees, were talking about how they hadn't found any water in days. The elephants, who usually bathed in the river, were now looking for any sign of water. Gary realized that he might be able to help. After all, his long neck gave him an advantage over the other animals, allowing him to see and reach things that they couldn't. But how could he use it to help everyone else? As Gary pondered, an idea struck him. He remembered that in the farthest corner of the forest, there was a tall mountain with a waterfall that never ran dry. The problem was, none of the animals could get there. The paths were steep, narrow, and difficult to navigate. Only Gary's long neck and towering height could give him a clear view of the paths leading to the water source. Without wasting any time, Gary set off toward the mountain. Along the way, he used his long neck to scan the forest, searching for the best path to take. His height allowed him to see obstacles ahead and guide the animals who followed him. He soon arrived at the mountain and led the others to the hidden waterfall where they could drink and cool off. Gary's long neck had become not just a source of pride, but a lifeline for the other animals in the forest. The animals were overjoyed to find fresh water, and they all gathered around the waterfall to drink. The elephants splashed happily in the water, the monkeys swung joyfully from the trees, and the deer drank their fill. Gary stood at the edge of the water, smiling to himself as he watched the animals. He had found a way to use his unique feature to help others, something he had never fully realized before. From that day on, Gary became known as the hero of the forest. He no longer felt awkward about his long neck. Instead, he embraced it as something that made him special and useful. He understood that what made him different was actually what made him stronger, and that sometimes our weaknesses can be turned into our greatest strengths. Gary learned that every creature has something unique about them, something that can make a difference in the world. It's not about how you look or what makes you different, but how you use those differences to help others.